9.1 Elements of social interaction. Society has been developed out of necessity for humans to survive and develop. Social interaction is the basis of social life and help humans reach their full potential. Social interaction is facilitated by pre-existing commonalities between individuals or shared understanding or experiences. Social interactions lead to culture. Statuses. In most societies there is hierarchical structure brought on due to inequalities of material goods, social opportunities, social acceptance, and skills. Statuses are positions in society that are used to classify individuals. Most statuses exist in relation to other statuses. It is important to note that not all personal characteristics are considered a social status. Three key types of statuses are ascribed, achieved, and master statuses. Ascribed status is a status that is given voluntarily due to factors such as race, ethnicity, gender, and family background. Achieved status is status that is gained as a result of one's efforts or choices. Master status is the status by which a person is most identified. It is the most important status that the individual holds and affects all aspects in that person's life. Master status is generally how people view themselves and often holds symbolic value, but can also cause pigeonholing. Pigeonholing is people viewing an individual only through the lens of his or her master status without regard to any other personal characteristics. Roles. Role is a set of beliefs, values, attitudes, and norms that define expectations for those who hold the status. Role performance is the carrying out of behaviors associated with a given role. Role performance can change depending on social situation and context of the interaction. Behaviors and expectations change as a result of the role partner. Role partner is the person with whom one is interacting. Role set is the various roles associated with a status. In life, people can play several roles at one time. Due to this complex nature of status and role, it can cause conflict, challenges, uncertainty, and ambivalence. Role conflict is the difficulty in satisfying the requirements or expectations of multiple roles. Role strain is the difficulty in satisfying multiple requirements of the same role. Role exit is the dropping of one identity for another. Groups. Groups or social groups consist of two or more people who share similar characteristics such as values, interests, ethnicity, social background, family ties, and political representation and a sense of unity. Dyad is a group of two people. A triad is a group of three people. As group size increases, groups trade intimacy for stability. Social groups are more complex than groups of people who happen to share the same space. Social groups meet the needs we have by providing an opportunity to belong and be accepted, and to offer safety, protect, and support. Groups can also be a source of conflict which include discrimination, persecution, oppression, and war. Peer group is one that is defined by association of self-selected equals around similar interests, ages, and status to provide an opportunity for friendship and feelings of belonging. Family groups are determined by birth, adoption, and marriage. It joins members of various ages, sexes, and generations through emotional ties. A family group can be filled with conflict sometimes. Family groups may also struggle with cultural gaps and social differences between generations such as speaking different languages. In-groups are groups where an individual belongs. Out-groups are groups where individuals compete or are in opposition. Reference groups are groups that establish the terms by which individuals evaluate themselves. Primary and secondary groups. Primary groups. In primary groups, interactions are direct with close bonds that provide warm personal and intimate relationships to members. This group lasts a long period of time and includes a core circle of friendship, tightly knit family, or members of a team. Secondary groups. In secondary groups, interactions are superficial with few emotions. Secondary groups last a short period of time, and they form and dissolve without any special significance. Community and society. Gemeinschaft und Gesellschaft is a theory that translates to community and society. Gemeinschaft or community refers to groups unified by feelings of togetherness due to shared beliefs, ancestry, or geography. Gesellschaft or society refers to groups that are formed because of mutual self-interests working together toward the same goal. Observing and analyzing groups. Smaller group sizes allow individuals to present more of themselves to the group. Interaction process analysis is a technique used to observe, classify, and measure interactions in small groups. The interaction process analysis was revised to the system for multiple-level observation of groups or SIMLOG. SIMLOG is based on the belief that there are three fundamentals of interactions being dominance versus submission, friendliness versus unfriendliness, and instrumentally controlled versus emotionally expressive. Group conformity occurs when groups hold power over its members that create group pressure to shape members' behaviors. Group conformity causes individuals to become compliant with group goals even though it may contrast with the individual goal. The individual will conform in an attempt to fit in. Groupthink is related to group conformity, but a more severe degree in which members begin to focus solely on ideas generated in the group while ignoring all outside ideas. Networks. Network is used to describe the observable pattern of social relationships among individuals or groups. Patterns of relationship can be determined by mapping the interactions between individual units, the nature of which is highly variable. Networks are displayed in maps where each point represents a unit in the network. Lines that connect the points are interactions between units. Not all contact points in a network are always unique. On these maps there is a lot of network redundancy or the overlapping connections to the same individual. Network analysis is used to understand the actions of individuals and groups to study the broader social structure. Individuals in networks face demands and expectations of other members, constraining what they are able to do. Immediate networks are dense with strong ties and made up of friends. Distant networks are looser and contain weaker ties and are made up of acquaintances. A combination of distant and immediate networks provides the most benefits to individuals because these networks will work complementarily to provide different resources. Organizations. Organizations are entities that are set up to achieve specific goals and are characterized by having a structure and culture. Studying organizations is important because organizations play an important role in a person's life. Formal organizations are different from groups because organizations continue despite the departure of an individual member, have expressed goals that are generally recorded in written format and guide the members and their activities. Have enforcement procedures that seek to control the activities of their members, and finally are characterized by the hierarchical allotment of formal roles or duties to members. A characteristic institution is the basic organization of society. Characteristic institutions were once upon a time a kin, clan, or SIB. In modern days, it is urban centers and bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is a rational system of political organization, administration, discipline, and control. Bureaucracy has 6 characters of paid, non-elected officials on a fixed salary, officials who are provided rights and privileges as a result of making their career out of holding office, regular salary increases, seniority rights, promotions upon passing exams or milestones. Officials who enter organizations by holding an advanced degree or training, responsibilities, obligations, privileges, and work procedures rigidly defined by the organization, and responsibility for meeting the demands of one's position. Bureaucracies are slow to change and less efficient than other organizations. Iron law of oligarchy states that democratic or bureaucratic systems naturally shift to being ruled by an elite group. The shift can be due to the necessity of a core body of individuals to carry out activities, increased specialization, and leadership characteristic of certain members of the group. A group established with democratic principles and complete egalitarianism will ultimately centralize, placing power in the hands of few leaders. McDonaldization is the shift in focus towards efficiency, predictability, calculability, and control in societies. (9.2) Self-presentation and interacting with others. Self-presentation or impression management is the process of displaying oneself to society through culturally accepted behaviors. Expressing and detecting emotions. Expressed emotions can be verbal and/or nonverbal behaviors that communicate internal states. We can express emotions with or without conscious awareness. Basic model of emotional expression states that facial expressions, behaviors, postures, vocal changes, and physiological changes are components that make up emotional expression. Expression is consistent with evolution and should be similar across cultures such that there are basic human emotions that are universally experienced and their corresponding facial expressions are universally recognized. Appraisal model accepts that there are biologically predetermined expressions once an emotion is experienced, but that there is a cognitive antecedent to emotional expression. Social construction model assumes that there is no biological basis for emotions except that they are based on experiences and the situational context alone. Certain emotions can only exist in certain social encounters such that emotions are different expressed across cultures. Culture provides the foundation to understand and interpret behavior, and cultural differences can lead to different social consequences when emotions are expressed. Display rules are cultural expectations of emotions. Display rules govern which emotions can be expressed and to what degree. Emotional expressions can be managed by simulating feelings one does not actually feel, by qualifying, amplifying, or de-amplifying feelings, or by masking an emotion with another emotion, or by neutralizing any emotional expression whatsoever. Cultural syndrome is a shared set of beliefs, attitudes, norms, values, and behaviors among members of the same culture that are organized around a central theme. Culture syndrome influences the rules for expressing or suppressing emotions, and can even influence the ways emotions are experienced. Gender plays an important role in emotional expression. Women are expected to express anger in public less often than men, while men are expected to repress the expression of sadness. Women are better at detecting subtle differences in emotional expression than men. Impression management. Impression management is our attempts to influence how others perceive us by regulation or control of information in social actions. There are three selves in impression management: the ideal self, the authentic self, and the tactical self. The authentic self describes who the person actually is, including both positive and negative attributes. The ideal self is who we would like to be under optimal circumstances. The tactical self refers to who we market ourselves to be when we adhere to others' expectations of us. Common strategies of impression management include self-disclosure, managing appearances, ingratiation, aligning actions, and alter casting. Self-disclosure is the giving information about oneself to establish an identity. Managing appearances is the use of props, appearance, emotional expression, or associations with others to create a positive image. Ingratiation is the use of flattery or conforming to expectations to win someone over. Aligning actions is making questionable behavior acceptable through excuses. Alter casting is imposing an identity onto another person. Irving Goffman's dramaturgical approach is the metaphor of theatrical performance to describe how individuals create images of themselves in various situations. Front stage is where the actor is in front of the audience, and performs according to the role, setting, and script in order to conform to the image he wants others to see. Backstage is where the actor is not being observed by an audience and is free to act in ways that may not be congruent with his desired public image without having to worry about ruining his performance. George Mead outlines the two parts of the self as the I and the me. Me is the part of self that is a response to the environment, while I is the creative expression of the individual. Verbal and nonverbal communication. Communication is the ability to convey information by speech, writing, signals, or behavior. Communication is the foundation of social interaction and is often used to elicit changes, generate actions, create understanding, share a point of view, or inform. Verbal communication is the transmission of information via the use of words, whether spoken, written, or signed. Nonverbal communication refers to how people communicate, intentionally or unintentionally without words. Nonverbal communication includes facial expression, tone of voice or prosody, gestures, body position or language, movement, touches, eye positioning. Animal signals and communication. Animal communication is defined as any behavior of one animal that affects the behavior of another. Animals communicate with one another in order to convey information such as emotions, intent, status, health, and locations of resources. They communicate using body language, rudimentary facial expressions, visual displays, sense and vocalizations. Animals use facial expression to indicate similar emotions to body language. Animals may use visual displays of coloring, bioluminescence, colorful plumage, and dancing to communicate. Many animals use scents to communicate intraspecifically or between members of same species and interspecifically or between members of different species. Pheromones are given off by members of a species to attract a mate. Scents can be used to mark an animal's territory or as a method of defense. Animals can communicate through vocalization with varying levels of sophistication. Humans and animals can communicate verbally and non-verbally with each other. Communication works as a pet's body language and expressions convey information to its owner and also the other way around.